Hello, welcome to another Nice Face Gaming video. Today we're going to be looking at tips and tricks on how to play Phoenix. So let's dive right in. So why do we play Phoenix? Well, it's not for his early game laning phase, which is terrible. He has zero base armor, he doesn't have any stuns, and his abilities have long cooldowns. So if he's not meant to win the early game, what does he do? Well, most supports peak at around 15 or 20 minutes, and the game goes downhill for them from there on. But not for Phoenix. He actually scales really well into the late game, and that's in part because he has percentage-based abilities, and in part because of Supernova, an incredibly powerful teamfight ultimate. And its wombo combo potential when paired with another AoE disable is out of this world. Now let's look at his skills next. So the skill build for Phoenix looks something like this. Egg 1 possible, then Fire Spirits, then Icarus Dive, then Sunray. Now there can be some deviations if you've got a push heavy team and you need the healing from Sunray, but for the most part you want to stick to something like this. Fire Spirits is always going to be the ability that you max first because it scales really well, and it is your only powerful early game spell. Phoenix's talent tree is fairly straightforward. At level 10 you want to select 90 gold per minute. You want the games to go long with Phoenix, so you're going to get a ton of value out of this additional 90 gold per minute. At level 15, 40 Fire Spirits DPS is amazing because you have 4 Fire Spirits that throw out. That ends up with 160 times 4. That's a ton of extra DPS. You can occasionally take the 500 health talent if you're really dying a lot, but you're going to be giving up a lot to get that extra health. At level 20, you have your first real choice. You can select either of these talents depending on how the game is going, and both of them have good win rates. At level 25, there is only one choice. It is the +3 Supernova hit count. It makes it so much harder to kill your egg that it's a default. You don't ever want to pick anything else. This Sunray talent, it sucks. It's crummy. Don't pick it. Phoenix's first ability, Icarus Dive, is a really great tool. You can use it to initiate, you can use it to escape, you can even use it to reposition during a fight. Now, one often overlooked aspect of this ability is that you can perform actions during it. That means you can attack while you're Icarus diving. You can also pick up bounties or use items. So one important interaction to be aware of with Icarus Dive is that when you become silenced, it can no longer be reactivated to stop your dive. So the most common interaction is with Silencer, and when Silencer last words you use Icarus Dive and immediately become silenced and come right back to where you started. So you gotta be really careful when doing stuff like that. Phoenix's second ability, Fire Spirits, summons 4 Fire Spirits. Now this ability does pretty good damage, and it absolutely destroys your opponent's attack speed. As you can see, it looks like the axe is swinging through molasses. This ability is going to be your bread and butter during the laning phase. It can interfere with your enemy carrier's last hits, and it can really mitigate the amount of harass that you take while also dishing out harass on your own. And you're going to find out later on that this ability is imperative to use before you Supernova. Now, the Fire Spirits buff lasts for 20 seconds. That means you have 20 seconds to spend your 4 charges. And the debuff lasts for 4 seconds. So ideally, you can get 16 seconds of attack speed slow on your opponent with 1 usage of Fire Spirits. So you want to space out your usage. You don't want to just throw them all out onto the axe right away because it just won't be as effective. It'll stack your damage and it'll stack your slow. So to deal the optimal amount of damage and interfere with your opponent the most, you want to space them out. You want to have 4 seconds in between each one of your Fire Spirit usages. Fire Spirits can be used as a great tool to de-push. As you can see here, you can push out the entire creep wave and not even show yourself on the map. It's an excellent tool for both pushing waves in and de-pushing waves that have been pushed into your base while maintaining safety. Fire Spirits can also be used to stack more than 1 creep camp. As you can see here, you can stack 2 or even 3 creep camps with optimal timing. The only thing to be wary of is that it does take a second for the first tick of damage to happen. The creeps won't aggro as soon as the Fire Spirit hits them. So you might be a little slow if you use your normal timing. Phoenix's third ability, Sunray, heals and damages in a line. This ability gets stronger the longer that it's channeled, and it does percentage-based damage, which means that it is better with and against high health heroes. Now, this ability can be used mid-team fight to heal up whoever's being focused, or it can be used after a victorious team fight to heal your team, or even mid-push to protect whoever is sieging for you. When using Sunray, your movement is disabled, but you get an exciting ability called Toggle Movement, which allows you to move. And it allows you to move in some interesting ways. You no longer have to worry about cliffs, and you can destroy trees. Much like Icarus Dive, you can also use items and abilities during Sunray. One interesting interaction is you no longer have to worry about turning to use targeted items and spells, which means you cannot be looking at someone and you can root them. This can be pretty useful against pesky storms that are abusing your crummy turn rate. Sunray can also be used to grant vision. It has a vision component while it's being casted. It's not lasting, but it can be used to deward high ground wards, and you can even use Sunray to get on the high ground to gain a vision advantage before a team fight. Next up, we have Phoenix's ultimate, Supernova. Supernova is an incredibly powerful team fight tool that can single-handedly turn the tide. This ability has a massive area of effect, encasing almost my entire screen in AoE damage and stun. Optimal egg usage is imperative to your success as Phoenix, and because using Supernova, when it goes off, resets your basic ability cooldowns, you want to use your basic abilities before you cast Supernova. As you can see here, Phoenix dives in, uses his Fire Spirits on Morphling and Centaur, and then Supernovas. And this is an excellent egg placement because it's far away from the enemy heroes, and they would have to run past his teammates to actively attack the egg. The egg can be absolutely brutal when defending or attacking into Roshan. Not only is there high ground on both the Radiant and the Dire side to drop the egg on, just dropping the egg deep in the Roshan pit will make it difficult for the opposing team to contest. Speaking of great egg placements, you can even land them on these high ground ward spots if you're in a good position. This makes it almost impossible for your egg to be destroyed. Not only do you get a 25% miss chance, but most melee characters can't even attack the egg. So let's take a look at some of the items that are effective to purchase on Phoenix. So your starting items should be some health regen, maybe some stat items, but you don't really need any mana regeneration like clarities or mangoes. One item you might want to consider purchasing on Phoenix if you're going to be facing a lot of auto attack harass is Ring of Protection. Now, Ring of Protection is especially good on Phoenix because armor has diminishing returns. So each point of armor you have provides slightly less physical armor resistance than the previous point. And Phoenix has 0 armor. So those first 2 points that you get from purchasing a Ring of Protection bump his physical resist up from 0 to 10%, which is fairly effective. It's going to give you around 63 effective HP coming from auto attacks, but it also increases the effectiveness of all of your regeneration items. Now, since most of Phoenix's abilities cost health in addition to mana, you really need health regen early on. And you also have low base move speed. That's where Tranquil Boots comes in. It solves 2 of Phoenix's problems in 1,000 gold item. It's really the only choice for boots for Phoenix. As far as early game items go, Urn of Shadows is an excellent pickup, partially because Phoenix is usually played as position 4, and that's usually the position that buys Urn of Shadows. You want it early game, so position 5 can't really afford it quickly enough. The Urn of Shadows also helps with the health problem that Phoenix has. The other early game item to consider is Midas. Now, Midas is especially useful on Phoenix because he scales well into the late game. That XP is very important to get those greater levels into your Supernova ultimate. As far as late game items go, Radiance is an excellent pickup because it actually takes effect while you're still in the egg. And so that 17% miss chance increases the number of attacks that it's going to take to destroy your egg, while also dealing damage. Shiva's Guard can also be an excellent pickup for Phoenix. Not only does it provide much needed armor, but it can also help protect your egg if it's active. Unfortunately, the aura does not work while you are in Supernova, but Luckily, you can use Icarus Dive combined with the Shiva's Guard to slow a massive area before you use your Supernova. Pipe of Insight can also be a good pickup versus heavy magic damage teams. Not only can you use the active before casting Supernova to get good value, but also the pipe buff applies while you are in egg, just like Radiance. Other items to consider building on Phoenix are Atos, Lotus Orb, Euls, and Refresher. Now, what these items all have in common is they have actives, which means you can use them before the egg. And that means you're still getting full value out of the item. Items that you don't really want have passives that don't trigger while you're in egg. I hope you enjoyed watching this guide on Phoenix. Don't forget to subscribe. Now get on out there and give your opponents the bird.